And welcome to Transition Talks, the podcast hosted by Josh Ackerman. Josh, it's great to see you again. How have you been?
I've been very good. How about yourself, Bill?
I've been really well, thanks. Things have been going very nicely, and the furnace that we had in the Northeast gave way to some beautiful weather where, believe it or not, it's been in the 50s at night.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. Windows
I'll take
open.
some of that.
Oh,
I'll take
yes.
some of that. Yes,
Oh, yes.
that sounds wonderful.
They're raising the heat on the oven today, so
You've had your dose of nice weather, and now it's back in the oven. Yeah,
we had the early taste of fall to back in the oven again. So
that's right.
So what are we talking about today?
Today we've got a really interesting guest. We've got Denise Logan, who is a former attorney, now a therapist. No kidding. And we'll talk about that. And she works with business owners getting ready to sell the business and deals with the issues around transitioning out of being a business owner that are separate from the money side, which, as it turns out, and as you and I have talked about several times, Bill, there's a whole lot going on that is not really about the bottom line of the offer. It may look like it from the outside, but when you kind of peel that back a little bit and you find out this owner isn't really upset about the offer, they're upset about any number of other things. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today.
Well, get to it, because I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be a lot of fun. Denise, thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm so glad to be on with you. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah. So did I do that intro right? You're a former attorney, now therapist?
Oh, it's kind of a mishmash of both.
Okay.
Should I give you a little of the background?
That'd be great.
All
Please.
right. Let's see. Early life, I was a therapist, and then I became a lawyer. And you might think that I could have used that good therapy skill to keep myself from becoming a lawyer. That might have been another good use of that. What I saw, I built a law firm when we reached 50 lawyers and 300 support staff. I exited my own practice. And what I saw was the business transactions were unraveling for all the reasons that were not what was being said. So often an owner might point to a financial piece or point to a transactional piece. But what was really happening was the emotional turmoil that they were in under the surface was driving that. So I exited my practice, got rid of my house and bought a motorhome. And I took off for what I thought would be 6 months and turned into 5 years, where I traveled all over North and Central America. That could be a whole separate podcast conversation.
Yes, a whole series of podcasts.
Probably with a beverage or two, if we were going to do that. When I came off the road, I joined a friend's business who was preparing it for sale. And over the next 10 years, we tried to sell that business 3 times. Each time he got right to the door and would pull out because he could not see what his life was like on the other side of the transaction. So I left and did a research study about why business owners get stuck. Why are they like me? I waited so long I would have given my business away to be free of it. Mm-hmm. Or why are they like him, where they go too early and can't pull the trigger? So for the last 15 years, I've worked one-on-one with owners and their advisors to navigate the emotional obstacles of exiting their business and landing safely on the other side.
I guess you only see the situations that you get brought into, but if you had to take a guess, how common do you think the emotional issue interfering with the transaction, how common do you think that is?
I think it's pretty frequent, and I'll tell you why. Because typically when I talk to, for example, an investment banker or a lawyer or a financial advisor, they often tell me that they are part-time psychologists, is what they will say. That they know that they are dealing with emotional issues. My response to them is often, of course you are, and how lucky we are that owners bring us in to that most emotional part of their life. You know, 2 things are happening in the sale of a business. There is the transaction, which is what the lawyer and the banker and often the financial advisor are dealing with. And then there is the transition, which is the single biggest change in their adult professional life, which fits perfectly with your podcast since it's called Transition Talk.
Definitely. No, that's the part that interests me, is the conversations around who is the owner going to become? What's the transformation that's going to occur from being the business owner to being whoever you're going to be on the other side of that?
It's not just the business owner either, Josh. It's also their family, their friends, their community, their company. Everything is in transition in that moment. And if you think about it, we know what transition is like in our lives. We have lots of different elements of transition that happen. What do we call it when the last child leaves home?
Empty nest.
Right? Empty nest. And we all know what that is. And we're not shamed when we are glad our children went to college and we miss them. Both things are true.
Right.
For our business owner, of course they want to exit their business, but often they also miss it. And the people around them frequently do not understand the transition that they're going through, or likewise, the business owner often doesn't recognize it either. I know that was my experience when I left my practice. I was super glad I wanted to leave. And there was a day where I was sitting on the patio, drinking iced tea, reading a magazine, thinking, oh, my life is so good.
Right.
And then into my mind popped something about a case that I had been working on. And I thought, I should tell. Oh, wait a minute. That's not mine to tell anymore.
Yeah.
And I went through a period where I thought, I got what I wanted. Oh, no. I got what I wanted. Wait, was that what I wanted? Did I get what I wanted? I think I got what I wanted. And the people around me often did not understand what that was and what exactly I was experiencing.
There's some interesting research I've read, and it's a condition called medalist syndrome. Mm-hmm. And that you talk to an Olympic athlete, is where the term comes from, obviously, but that you win the gold medal and you're standing on the podium, and that's wonderful. You hear the national anthem played and it's just great. And then at some point, and the terrifying part of it is how quickly the dissatisfaction sets in, where you stop and you go, well, now what am I going to do? I did that.
That is
but that's
so
over.
Accurate. You know what else, Josh, that's happening there? I love that phrase, the medal. When you said it, I noticed my brain was doing the spelling around it, right? MEDALIST, the medalist. I got the medal. One of the things that I see with business owners is we're always focused on what the dollar amount is, how they're selling the company. And money matters, but it's not the only thing that matters. So often I hear advisors ask clients, so what are you going to do when you sell your business? And you probably have the same experience. Often the answers are golf, travel, and grandkids.
Yep.
Guess what, friends? That's not a plan. That is not what comes on the other side. Often, just like our children, when we ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They don't really have a framework for that, which is why they say princess and fireman and astronaut, because those are the things they've been exposed to. So often for our owners, as they are exiting their business, if we ask them, what are you going to do? They don't have an idea. And, retirement for us will not be like it was for our parents and grandparents. Playing golf and waiting for Wheel of Fortune to come on is not going to be a satisfying retirement for most of us. And it will not be for our business owners. So the question I ask them instead is, what does work provide for you other than money and financial security? Because guess what? You are not retiring or selling your business if you are not getting money and financial security.
Right.
So the question is, what does work provide for you other than money and financial security? And usually when I ask an owner that question, their answer is, well, like what else? What else is there? Because we become accustomed to thinking that the reason we work is for money and financial security. But the truth is that there are so many other things that we get from our work. So I will ask a client to give me 15 unique answers to that question, other than money and financial security. So listeners at home, get your pencils, get your paper, and let's figure out, what else are you getting? Josh, what comes to mind for you? What other than money and financial security do you get from work?
Oh, I get a tremendous amount of accomplishment. I love helping other people. It gives me a chance to do that. It gives me a social network, people to talk to, places to go. It is a certain amount of validation that the things I've worked to get good at, other people will say that really helped. And so now I know it worked. It is a never ending learning opportunity. There's always, every new client is a new set of challenges, a new set of questions. That's four or five.
Right. But notice, right, just these pieces. I'll give you some of the ones that I typically hear.
Yeah.
So one is structure. It provides structure to our day, to our week, to our year. And so that's a piece that owners need, even when they exit their business. Where will I get my structure? It's a place to go, right? During COVID, weren't we all desperate to get out of our houses? And guess what? Our spouses were desperate for us to get out of their houses too. When are you going back to work and leaving my house? The truth is that we're not just going to sit around in our house. Other things that I hear that we get from work, things like intellectual stimulation, friendship, the thrill of the chase or the thrill of the kill, like when you land a new deal or you closed a transaction. That is a piece that we're getting. So what I would say is the first 4 or 5 are ones that come pretty quickly for us. The next 4 or 5 are ones that are more difficult. Things like, at work, I am the wisdom keeper. People come to me to ask them to solve problems, or I am engaged in problem solving. Also, I don't know about in your house, but in my house, the people don't necessarily think my stories are quite as entertaining or important as the people when I am working.
Definitely.
Or vice versa. At
Yep.
work, I say I want something done, and it happens. The people in my house do not respond that way just because I said I want something done.
Right.
And so sometimes it's a piece like power that we are getting. And then there are things that sometimes we don't even like to admit to ourselves that we are getting from work. I think power is one that we often don't like to admit. That's what I get. I'll give you an example of a client that I worked with. We're very close to the end of the transaction, and some crazy started churning up in the deal. And I said to the deal team, oh, this is not from him. This is from home. At work, he is a bully. He's always involved in conflict and litigation and other things.
Right.
Mama just realized that the bully is going to be home full time with her. That chaos that was coming up in the transaction was actually because our partners get something from our work as well. They get status or they get time alone. There are things that we get from work. So with that particular client, I got him involved in a boxing program. It was definitely for his physical fitness and for his social needs, but also he had a bully need that needed to get satisfied. It was going to continue to get met, but maybe perhaps not in a healthy enough way. Once he locked onto that boxing program, all of her issues settled down. Or here's another thing that we often, I'm going to put get in quotes, right? Air quotes. A family business transition. The sons said to dad in a meeting I was in, Dad, when are you going to retire and travel with mom? She has been waiting 35 years to travel with you, and blah, blah. They were nudging him. He stormed out of the meeting. And I said to them, that was curious.
Yeah.
Does your dad like to travel? And they said, no, he's a homebody. Well, friends, do you see how nudging someone to sell their business because then they're going to do something that they don't want to do is not an effective strategy? Something that he was getting from work was a built-in excuse.
Right.
To not have to do something he didn't want to do. And it is much easier to say, honey, I'd love to go on that trip with you. But I can't. The business needs me. I can't be away longer than 2 or 3 days. It's much harder to say, honey, I don't think I can stand you for longer than 4 hours in a consecutive period. We see it with owners. They step away from work, but they are checking their email. They're logging in. Sometimes what they are getting is a sense of order and structure and something that they can feel that they have accomplished. Being full-time with their family, a lot of times, and you'll have listeners who right now are like, yep, if I have to go on vacation with my youngins or my grandkids, guess what? Not everything feels within my control. And those are pieces that we get from work.
Oh, I think a trip with grandkids for a lot of people, you have no control. Mm-hmm. The focus is not on you. The choices are being made not based on your preferences, but based on the 8-year-old's preferences. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Right. Or and being home for dinner, right? At work, you have a meeting and people are attentive and they do what they're supposed to do. You have dinner at home with your kids or your grandkids. Guess what? They are not attentive. They are not doing what you want them to do. Often we see business owners wanting to emotionally check out of that experience, but it's hard for them to even acknowledge that. So when we look at why business owners struggle to let go, these things are often going on under the surface, and we don't have language for them. And worse, people think that they are the only one. They think I'm a weirdo. Why don't I want to leave? Why am I afraid of this? Those are the things that spike up at 3:00 in the morning and make them worry. I had a client, and this happens for young owners and older owners, right? We often think that the identity crisis is what we often refer to it as. But I had a client, he was 37 years old, selling a software company. He was set to net $16 million on the other side of the sale, which is a pretty good chunk of change for that time in his life. Yeah. And he said, who am I going to hang out with? All my buddies have jobs.
Right.
And the less than EQ investment banker in the deal said, dude, you can buy friends. And I thought, oh no. That was in your outside voice where we could hear it.
Exactly.
And everyone laughed and haha, so funny. But what happened was this owner now felt ashamed. That he felt ashamed about a very real thing. And we see it a lot with owners. They have focused on their business and their family. And friendships have often drifted away. And so their friends might be their customers or their employees or their vendors, or even their competitors.
Sure.
I know you told a story on one of your prior podcasts about a client. I don't know if you want to repeat it, but.
The one about the client who was having lunch? Mm-hmm. Yeah. A client who had sold a business and for a substantial amount of money. And he texted me on... if memory serves, a day in like mid-July, a Wednesday in mid-July, and he was having lunch by himself in this restaurant, and he texted me and he said, I'm the richest person in this building and I'm having lunch by myself.
Yeah.
And I thought, if clients spent the energy that they spend checking their 401k balance on a daily basis, working on building friends, specifically, I think American males are horrible at developing and maintaining friendships. And so I would say to the business owners, look at who you'd have lunch with. That isn't going to be at work on a Wednesday.
Right. Or even someone, well, I did this work with another client not long ago who said, right now, I can pick up the phone and anyone who I call will take my call.
Right.
Because he is in a place of power and he knows that. And he said, who will take my call when I'm not in this role? And so he and I made a list. Who were the people that if he picked up the phone, he would want them to take his call? His perception was that the only reason they were his friends was because they wanted something from him or he could do something for them. And so we made a list. And it was super challenging for him to do this. People who are listening are like, oh, I don't know if I would do that. We made a list of 12 people that he knew from work that he would want to have ongoing connection with. And I worked with him to ask them. So I'm going to leave my company right. And business owners aren't often telling that yet. Would you still have lunch with me?
Wow.
And he said, I don't want to ask that. Like, what if they say no? Or worse yet, what if they say yes, only because I'm asking them? And so, what I said to him is, you won't know unless you ask. And often the people who are in our life, actually, they miss us when we leave too. And so what if we begin to build those relationships? And yes, someone may only have lunch with you because you asked. But wouldn't you rather be able to have lunch and be with people? Or I want to go to a sporting event. Or, there are lots of different activities.
Sure.
We also look at how to build other friendships and connections. So one of the things that I'll tell you, I had a client recently, and there's a female client, and she said, we were preparing for her exit. And she said, but I don't want to learn to knit and play mahjong. I was like, oh, honey, is that what you think we're going to do? Because I don't want to learn how to knit and play mahjong either. No wonder you don't want to leave your business if that's what you think is waiting for you. So for her, one of the things that was important, right? She was in a job where she used her brain a lot. And so I connected her with a program called the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. So the acronym is OLLI, OLLI. And they are connected to universities all across the country. And you must be 55 or older to join. Right. And they're like little interesting classes that are taught by professors or other educators. And you can drop in. So the class might be, I'm going to give you some examples just because I think it's fun. One that I took was on the history of Paris from antiquity to modern day. It was 4 Wednesdays for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And it was right before the Olympics were in Paris last year.
Okay.
And so that professor was brilliant. And there were probably 70 people who attended that class. Cost very small amount. But then I made it my business to ask other people in the class, hey, you want to have coffee afterwards and talk about what we heard? These are the ways that we begin to make friendships with people on things that were interesting. Or I took another of their Osher classes. And by the way, whoever's listening, go look it up. Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. There will be one near you. I took another one that was called Hearing Color and Seeing Sound. And it was 2 Fridays, and it was taught by a music professor. And what he would do is he would play a little bit of music and he would say, what color did you just see? And the interesting piece was almost everyone in the room had a particular tonality of color that we saw. And then he went into the theory behind why particular notes hit particular emotional resonance, and we have colors that tie to that. And then he would play the piece of music. And it was 2 Friday afternoons. And then we heard a concert that he performed in on a Saturday evening. And guess what? There were a whole bunch of us in that class who found reasons to connect with each other afterwards. That's a way as adults to begin making friendships in ways that are different. And yes, you know what? It does take us outside of our comfort zone.
Well, and I think at some level, that's what we want from work, right? Is we want that feeling of stretching our brain, stretching our comfort zone, and doing something that is slightly uncomfortable. I've got this theory now. It's not supported by any research whatsoever, but the theory is around different people will react to the same stress differently. Mm-hmm. I've got good friends, and his wife is a professional chef. Mm-hmm. He is a physical trainer and lives in the gym.
Right.
She does not like working out. That stress does not feel good to her.
Right.
And if he had to stand still and work a station at a restaurant, he'd go crazy.
Right.
And so it's the same stress, but it fits different people differently. And I think one of the things that we miss from not having work to get up and go to is the stress, is some of the things that we want to complain about when we get home. If you don't have some things to complain about, how do you demonstrate to yourself, to your spouse, that you went out and fought the saber-toothed tiger today?
Right.
Right?
For sure.
Even if it was a grumpy client.
For sure. And those are the pieces, right? Work is meeting so many of our needs that often what happens is people retire or they leave their business and they think they are missing work. And it's not work that they're missing. They're missing all of these components that we're getting met by work. So often we will see business owners, they'll sell their company, and within 1 year, they take a big chunk of that money and they go buy another company.
Right.
And then that company doesn't satisfy them because they didn't actually know what they were trying to get that need met. So let's use an example. I often hear advisors will tell owners after they sell, you should join a charity board. And that's really great if that is the need you're getting met. But often they are looking to get their power need met.
Right.
And instead, they get assigned to make sure the cheese tray is filled, or they get assigned to go raise money. And that's not what is meeting their need. So I often say, we will not find a single thing in the other part of our life that will meet so many needs. It's up to us, and hopefully with some help, to be able to identify what am I getting from work and
right.
how can I meet those needs? So some of it is we're moving at work. For a lot of us, that is the physical need that we are getting. Where else are you going to be moving? Right? Where will you move your body? And I think, I know in one of your earlier podcasts, you talked about the push-pull of leaving, right? What is pushing you to leave your company and what is pulling you into your life? So something that I often suggest to clients, you need to be working on these before you leave your company.
Definitely.
Because otherwise it can feel like a death when you leave your company, because there's a lot of grief and loss and change, which we experience in all the other parts of our life in transition. So when our junior high schooler is leaving junior high and going to high school, and they're going to miss their soccer coach, we don't tell them, well, get over it. That's what big girls do. Instead, we know, oh, you're going to miss that. And we help them make that transition. For our business owners, they are often going through this transition alone. It's not like when our kids leave home. We're actually going through that with other parents of children who are the similar age. We know what that is. When you drop your kid off at college and you come home, I think you and I talked about this.
We did.
And you're about to set the table and you realize, oh, rats, I have 3 plates and there's only 2 of us for dinner. Your spouse doesn't berate you. about that.
Right.
And your friends don't say, well, dummy, I thought you wanted that kid out of your house. You did want that kid out of your house. And you have done your job to raise them and begin the launching process. And you miss them. The house is quiet. There aren't socks all over the floor, which drove you crazy before. But now you're like, there are no socks on the floor. I miss it.
Oh, I definitely miss being a dad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's something I think that you pointed out. One of the examples you gave when you and I first talked, and I was talking about that with my wife. We were walking the dog, and I said, Denise made a comment about you miss that thing. And I was like, that's 100% true. And it was a good way for me to kind of put myself somewhat in the position of the business owner and say, no, I totally understand missing this thing. Now, to bring it back to our list of 12 things that the owner gets from work, do you then go try and find activities that will meet one or two or three of those and kind of try and rebuild that list? Is that the goal?
So here's an example of something that I think works. You go and get the theater schedule, not the movie theater, like the performing arts centers, and you get the sports schedules, and you get the arts calendar, and you pull them all across the dining room table, and you highlight all the things that seem interesting to you. And then you take your calendar for the next 12 months, and every other week you plug something in to the calendar. So we're going to go, I live in Phoenix part of the year. So we're going to go to the Diamondbacks game, and we're going to go to a Cardinals game, and we're going to go to something at this performing arts center. And you buy the tickets now. You buy a whole year worth of activities. Buy 2 tickets, and for some things, buy 4 tickets.
Yep.
Because you have some activity planned every other week in your month. There are things to look forward to. And for the weeks that you buy 4 tickets, guess what? You got to go drum up some other people.
Yep, exactly.
Which means that you are engaged in the social part of it. We're also going to look at the vacation schedule. Okay, because we often hear travel is one of the things that people are going to do. My view is, where's your first trip? Where are you going? Okay. And how are you going to get there? Like, are you going by plane or train or automobile? How are you going? And how long will you be there? What will you do while you're there? And when you come home, how will you get home? And how long will you be home before your next trip? And how will that time look? And where's your next trip? And where will you go? And how will you get there? And it is all mapped out on the calendar. Because one of the things we miss often when we leave work is that sense of, oh, I know what's coming up. There's a meeting I have to prepare for. There's a conference. There's a bid due, whatever the piece is of their unique work. And we are creating that structure, but also, and the reason why I don't suggest that owners only choose one type of activity. My view is, you know what? You may not have been to a sporting event in a long time. We're going to put them on, but not only sporting events, because that meets a different need. Maybe you need to go to a comedy club. Guess what? If you and your spouse haven't been to happy hour in a while, you're going to get again, I'm just going to use Phoenix because that's where I live. You're going to get the list of 100 top restaurants or the 50 best places for happy hour. You're going to plug those into your calendar.
We had a client in a similar situation, and I thought this worked really well for her. She was going to leave her money, or a large portion of her money, to the ASPCA and the Red Cross, the national organizations. And this money, several $1 million, was going to buy paper clips for each of those organizations.
Right.
And so she started giving money locally and finding places here in Lexington, Kentucky, where a check for $5,000 really made a difference.
Right.
And it let her get the satisfaction of making the gift. And in places that she wanted to be involved, she would get to go to the dress rehearsal of the theater production.
Right.
It gave her something to do when she got up in the morning. And that worked out really well. Denise, tell me about how people can find you and how you work with your clients.
Yeah. So my website is super easy. It's deniselogan.com. Nothing crazy. And typically I'm brought into a transaction through a banker or a lawyer or a wealth manager or a family member, someone who realizes that the owner is struggling or is likely to struggle. And I also have a book called The Seller's Journey, which is available on my website, or you can get it on Audible. And it is the story. Oh,
Right
you have the copy of it. It is the story of an owner 1 year after he exits his business. And it goes on a trip across Glacier National Park with his banker, his lawyer, his wealth manager, and the buyer. Right now, you're thinking it's a murder mystery.
I was going to say, and how many people come out of the park?
But as they cross the glacier, they are relating the physical obstacles they're facing to the emotional obstacles that he faced in letting go. It's a tool as an owner to recognize, oh, this is what I'm struggling with, and I'm not alone, and why it makes a difference who you choose to take this journey with, because it is the single most vexing chapter in the life of a business owner is that final chapter as you exit and step into the life that's waiting for you on the other side.
That's great. And I started the book over the weekend, and it's been great so far. I really like it. There's some great scenes that I'm going to start using with clients. I can already tell. So yeah,
great.
Thanks for that. Well, Denise, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me, Josh.
I could do this with you for much longer than we have today. So thank you very much.
Stay well.
All right.
You could, in fact, keep doing it for much longer because I would be eagerly hanging on every word. That was great. Denise, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I love that final story because I was like, Josh, I'm wondering who comes out and is this a joke?
Right.
But I know from talking with Josh, actually, it's not a joke. And from listening to you today, that story makes perfect sense. And I think what a wonderful, wonderful anecdote for people to keep in their minds. Because as you know, from listening to Josh's podcast, a lot of people get there and then they get on the other side and they're like, I'm rich and I'm eating alone. And what do I do now?
It's no joke. It's no joke. I took a call from a M&A advisor in November, and he had helped an owner sell his business. It took him 5 years to get there. And within weeks, the man had taken his own life.
Oh. And I wonder how many of those are really out there. You know,
there's a lot. We are changing their lives, and it is our responsibility, I think, to change that life well.
Yes. Yeah.
I think, it's interesting. I remember this from an anthropology class I had a long time ago. The single most powerful event that can change or destroy a society is something really simple: change. Mm-hmm. So that, it's nice that you're there, Denise, to confirm that and acknowledge it. And it's great, Josh, you and Denise both affirm that all the time and know it, because you're dealing with people who are going through a tremendous change, whether they know it or not.
Right.
Whether they know it or not.
And so often we're focused on the financial aspect of this. I mean, my time as a therapist is in two tracks. One is work and financial disorders. So people who are addicted to work and money, and that's what it looks like. Yep. And the other track is called thanatology, which is the study of death and dying. And for our owners, this feels like a death. I mean, in many ways, Josh, even as you talk about, your child goes off to college, and it does feel like it is a death of that part of your life.
Yeah.
And often what we see is that owners, as they get close to this existential moment of change, because we don't deal with endings as a society, they often will turn right around and move back toward, you know what, I just need $1 more million, or I need 5 more deals to get done before they will exit. And it's rarely actually about that. I call it, oh my syndrome, 1 more year. Oh my. And that the truth is that often an owner who is pushing something out for 1 year or this extra time, they are signaling to you, I don't know what comes next, and therefore I'm not going to let go of the shore.
Well, I don't know what comes next, but I'm pretty sure I don't want anything to do with it. Right? I don't
Right?
want that.
If I think what's
interested.
next is playing mahjong and knitting, I don't want that. And therefore I will stay because I don't know what's next. And I think it's our responsibility to help them know what comes next.
My
let
father,
that be compelling. So it is pulling them toward it.
Yeah, it's got to be shiny. Or no one's going to make a change for the default version of what comes next.
Right.
That's not interesting to anyone. My father retired out of the planning practice we have last year. He turned 80. And the day he said, okay, I'm out, he said, now the deal is I get an office anywhere you go.
Right. Right. He needs a place to go.
He needs a place to go. Definitely.
And structure, even if that structure is I only come in and read the newspaper and chatter around the office and drink 2 cups of coffee and then I leave.
Well, and as he said, there are days where he gets to be Tom Ackerman again.
Mm-hmm.
There are days where I'll come into him and say, how do I do this? And he gets to bring out 50 years of experience and say, this is what you do. And, I don't know what else you would want out of your day, right?
Right. Gosh, did we capture this or are we in the post?
No. This is all here. This is all here.
I'm so glad.
I can assure you that it is all here. No, and it's great. And unfortunately, we do need to wrap it up. But this is actually a great listen, but also really powerful because it drives home a point that Josh has made many, many times. And I've heard from other people who facilitate the sale of businesses and the transition of businesses as well. It can't be stated enough. So Denise, thank you for being here and being a pretty powerful witness to the process, as a matter of fact. And Josh, we know how to get a hold of Denise, DeniseLogan.com. Man, that is easy. Thank you, Denise. How do we get a hold of you, Josh, if somebody's listening and would like to get a hold of you?
I'm at contextfinancial.com and Josh Ackerman at contextfinancial.com, or excuse me, Josh at contextfinancial.com.
Excellent. And for those of you who don't have a pen or pencil or have bad memory, it'll be in the show notes, so don't worry about it. You can go back and get it out of there. But that was great, Josh. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But listeners, if you are not a subscriber, the one thing I would ask is that you just hit the follow button. Become a subscriber because you're automatically notified when Josh's new episodes come out and you can give them a listen. And it will also let you know where his podcast is so you can go back and listen to some of the ones that were referenced in today's episode. Until next time, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen today and ask you that if you like this podcast, tell people about it, please. There are a lot of weird things out on the internet telling people to listen or watch or hear. But nothing replaces a personal recommendation, and we would thank you for that. Until next time, I'm Bill Tucker. On behalf of Josh and everybody at Context Financial, thank you for taking the time to listen today, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to Transition Talks, Business Exit and Retirement Strategies with Josh Ackerman from Context Financial. Are you a business owner looking to sell or make a transition? Connect with Josh on social media using today's show notes links. You might just be his next guest. To ensure you don't miss a new episode, please click the follow button. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Context Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.